Oh boy. I'm about to be talking about a topic that, well, not really a topic, but actually a person, and a topic surrounding that person. But the person in question is quite controversial as far as internet figures go. Now, he's not controversial because he's necessarily done or said anything particularly offensive, at least nothing that he's stood by and would generally continuously hang from someone's reputation. Really, this figure has a bad reputation almost by default, and I'll explain why. One of the biggest reasons why this particular person is as controversial as they are is because they've been around for a very long time. He's been making videos on YouTube since, the mid 2000s, and because of that, well, I think a lot of you Zoomers in chat, and I'm a Zoomer myself, but I remember this time, a lot of you may remember a time on YouTube when there wasn't as much moral judgment for the type of content you made, right? You could make really silly, perhaps even embarrassing content, and you didn't have to worry about it destroying you, right? Not to the same degree that it can today. The person in question has been on the internet and has been a fairly prominent figure on the internet since the mid 2000s, and because of that, no Nazi stuff or anything like that. And because of that, there's just a long list of things they've done online publicly that you can pick and chew at and attack them over, right? Now, my opinion on this person in question is not necessarily important. Personally, my feelings aren't overwhelmingly strong. I do have problems with a few things that this figure has said or done in the past, but it's not Vosh. Stop saying Vosh. I do have a few problems with what this figure has said and done in the past. However, overall, I'd say I have a pretty positive opinion on him, right? I'd say overall, it's not PewDiePie. I'd say I have an overall pretty positive opinion on him. Even with the mistakes that have happened, I respect his long, what is it called? Tenure on YouTube, and he has a very impressive, I've been saying he this whole time, he has a very impressive and long upload history, and his name is Boogie2988. I'll show you guys a picture of him before I put on the video in question. Boogie has been overwhelmingly known and quite famous, even if you don't know his name, you've seen his face or you've seen the character that he very famously played, Francis, in a video or a meme or a screenshot or a story or something along those lines, right? And honestly, I think Boogie's gotten, a pretty hard run of things. Is he perfect? No. Has he been cringy at times? Sure. Has he said bad things, done things that are a little bit iffy? Sure. But it's always felt a little disproportionate, at least. Now, I don't follow YouTube drama and YouTube hate as much as most people do, but the hate towards this figure has always felt so disproportionate. There's so many people on the internet, so much more admittedly famous than him, who are so objectively worse, and yet so much hate seems to be centralized on this one guy. So, even if some of the hate is justified, it seems so disproportionate, right? And, for a while, I think you could attribute to that, well, whatever. The internet just happens to hate some people more than others. Some people would suggest it's fat phobia or even political motivations, but I don't really want to talk about that because those are obvious reasons as to why, people hate other people on the internet. I really want to talk about how evil the internet can be in this segment. So Boogie recently put out a video in which he talked about the fact that he had lost a shit ton of money to crypto and that he needed to make a lot of content in order to financially recover from how much money he lost to crypto. Now, a lot of people, it's easy to say, oh, well, fuck him. He lost his money to crypto. Fuck people who got involved with crypto. They were stupid. They got what they deserve. But I don't necessarily agree that because somebody fell for a scam in crypto, at least the cryptocurrencies he invested in ended up being a scam. I don't think that somebody falling for a scam, means they deserve to, lose everything, right? Or lose, a lot of what they have. I think that's unfair. Regardless, though, That happened a while ago. People gave Boogie a lot of shit. And then some unfortunate coincidence happened. Just yesterday, Boogie put out a video titled, "I Have a Rare Form of Cancer." So let's go ahead and watch. We're only going to watch the beginning of the video because that's the most relevant part of it. And then we're going to get to the overall meat of this topic, or what I want to talk about here. Let's hear what Boogie has to say.
I often say, though, every day that I wake up is a good day. It's the one day that I don't wake up that sucks. So I've been debating for a while to talk to you guys about this, but I hope it brings you guys a little bit of clarity about some of the videos I've made in the last month or so. Because, well, you remember about 3 weeks back I said that I likely could potentially have a form of cancer. Turns out I got a rare blood cancer called polycythemia vera, which basically makes your body produce too many red blood cells. And when I started taking that testosterone supplement 7 or 8 years ago, however long it's been, we knew that this was a possibility. You never think you're going to be the guy who gets that side effect, though, right? You never think it's going to be you. But sometimes it is. It has to be somebody. But the good news is, I mean, this is a disease that takes a really long time to get you. Statistically speaking, I'll die of a blood clot or a heart attack or a stroke due to one of those blood clots. And most people, after getting diagnosed, live another 20 years. So if you're going to get a cancer, this is the one to get. You know me and my dark sense of humor. When my doctor told me all of this, I said, if I die of cancer, doc, instead of my morbid obesity, which I've been working so hard on for the last 30 years, I'm going to be pissed. And well,
I will say I don't like those jokes. So Boogie2988, one of the types of content he's made the last couple of years that I've actually liked quite a bit is his weight loss updates. I've actually quite enjoyed watching as he's lost quite a bit. Isn't he a chud? No, he's not. I've actually enjoyed watching as, you know, he becomes healthier and loses weight. I mean, it's a inspiring and nice thing to see, especially if the weight loss is making the person who's losing the weight happy or happier. Something a lot of people tend to be iffy on with Boogie, and I agree, is that he tends to be a little, with his humor, and I know why he does it, and he's got an explanation for it that seems reasonable, but nonetheless, people are still off-put by it, is how wishy-washy he can be about the concern for his health, right? Like in some of the darker humor he'll be like, oh, I've been working on killing myself with obesity for years. People don't like those jokes. When people hear jokes like that, they tend to be off-put by it. Am I the only one saying, does anyone else agree? Does anyone else agree? Like, even if he is actively making the effort to help, like, make himself healthier, it really just kind of, it feels doomer and gives a bad vibe. It's kind of funny, but it's a little dark. Yeah, like, I get that. I think a lot of people are off-put by those jokes or those comments, and it's just, I think it feels pessimistic and doomery, and I think that vibe of negativity just kind of hangs over the viewer. You know what I mean?
the good news is it might just give me a stroke or a heart attack, which is how I was going out anyway. The scary thing about it is that it eventually can lead to some health conditions, some of which I already have. Arthritis, stomach ulcers, leukemia. I could definitely develop into leukemia, but the good news is that's pretty rare, so I don't think that's going to happen. And there's tons of different ways to treat it. I mean, they can draw your blood, like when they donate blood, or taking a daily aspirin is going to help. Getting something to help reduce the itching, which has been really rough for me over the few years. Drugs that reduce the blood cell count, and things along that lines. It's pretty basic, easy stuff, especially at the.
So that's the main important aspect of the video. Yes, Boogie does have cancer. Thankfully, it is a type of cancer that is pretty unlikely to result in the end of his life early by any means. Like, it seems like he's assuming that, other health factors don't play a part. He should probably live another 20 years, right? And that's on average, right? Which, of course, isn't a guarantee. It is not a guarantee by any means, but it's, as he said before, if you're going to get diagnosed with cancer, I wouldn't say it's the cancer you want to get diagnosed with. There are plenty of other types of cancer you can get that are far less of a problem, that don't have any mortality rate at all. At least if you just deal with them, early, like, like there's types of cancerous skin tumors you can get and whatnot. But like, yeah, I overall, it's not necessarily it's not like Walter White in the doctor's office getting his lung cancer diagnosis, finding out he's going to die in less than a year, supposedly. And like the sounds go, like the ringing starts going and like everything's cut out. Not perfect. Like, not a perfect situation, but obviously not like the nightmare scenario, right? Like, I'm glad that it wasn't the nightmare scenario. Despite that, though, it would be I think we can all agree it would be a pretty low blow for somebody to attack him on the grounds of his cancer, right? For those of you guys that don't remember, a very beloved figure by the name of... how am I blanking on his name right now? Total Biscuit. Very famous figure by the name of Total Biscuit. Died of cancer, God, it was 7-8 years ago now. It's like back in 2015, 2016, so it'd be like 7 years now. A while ago. It's been a hot minute, though, but a beloved internet figure, someone who's got... If you type LOLW in the chat right now, that's him. Type LOLW in chat. That is him. He's literally gone down in history as the iconic emote LOLW. That's him. That's his face. How John Total Biscuit Bane became the LOLW emote. The original image was taken at MLG Anaheim 2013 by photographer... Okay, yeah, so basically, here's the full image. Slightly cut off, it appears, for some reason, but that's the more full image. That's the LOL-S version, just the LOL version. It's not LOLW. Anyway, as you can tell, like, yeah, he died of cancer, and when he had cancer, there were some of the biggest assholes online attacked him for it, and their reputations still bear that mark because of how low of a blow it was considered to attack him, or like on the grounds of his cancer, right? One of the people who said this was Keemstar. Let me see if I can find it. Keemstar Total Biscuit. I think this is it.
Look, you fucking piece of shit. I've been fucking watching you for years. I've been a fan of you for years. Out of the blue, you tweet at me, "You're not news," and then you fucking block me? Why? Oh, I've never even fucking said anything about you at all. Like, now I want to. Now I want to be like, can't wait to report your death. Like, seriously. What's wrong with you, asshole?
Yikes. Oh, wants to play my theme song. Good job, YouTube. You're a little bit early for it, or a little bit late, I guess, but good autoplay choice. Yeah, so, that's one that he's not quite lived down, even though he's a cockroach. That type of behavior, that type of rhetoric was seen as pretty disgusting and a low blow low enough that it just wasn't the kind of thing that people would defend or engage in a broader sense. But no, for some reason it seems that Boogie has passed a level of I guess people hate him enough that this is fine now. Like, engaging in like these low blows is fine. So Boogie put out a few tweets recently that goes over this. Let me go down the line and see if I can find... Here it is. So this is where he starts talking about it. So the rumor mill has decided that I'm faking my cancer diagnosis. Let me address this one and only one time. I don't think he only addressed it once, but let's watch this clip. Just so you guys can get a little bit of a glimpse into the internet.
Hey, sorry about my voice. I'm getting over the flu, but I wanted to say thank you to the people that have reached out in the last 24 hours. Content creators, YouTubers, fans, friends, even people that don't even like me have had nice things to say, and I'm really grateful. Thank you.
I'm glad.
I have a favor to ask of those people, though, and I'm sorry to have to ask anything. But I see the rumor mill's creeping back up again. The same rumor mill that's accused...
By the way, this video isn't as like a favor to Boogie or anything like that. I saw this happening, and I felt an internal desire to talk about this. And I'm going to give my overall thesis on why I'm covering all of this after this segment. So yeah.
Me of God knows what else. And this time they've decided that I am faking my cancer diagnosis. And whereas I know that those people know better, I know that nobody's that fucking stupid, it's still going to spread like wildfire. So number one, if you're that kind of person, fucking stop. I get it's fun to LARP about me. I get it's fun to pretend that I'm a piece of shit. And I get that I made my mistakes in the past. But cancer's not something to pretend about. Cancer's not something to joke about. Cancer's not something pretending that I'm lying about. Cancer for clout and views is a fucked up thing to do. Get help. Secondly, if you see a YouTuber saying that I'm faking this shit, link it to me. I normally free speech advocacy, the whole 9 yards, but it's time I finally put my fucking foot down if I have to. So I will here.
Based.
Okay? And thirdly, if you see this shit in comment sections, if you see videos about it, shout these motherfuckers down. Let them know. Let them know reality. I get that it's fun to pretend. I get that it's fun to dunk on me and try to ruin my life. I get it. But fuck you if you're doing that. And I don't want to let you this time.
You Chad.
I've let you every other time. I didn't give a fuck what you had to say. But cancer's not a thing that we're going to joke about, okay? Cancer's not a thing that we're going to pretend I'm lying about. That's not a thing we're going to do. Okay?
So, I want to talk about hate on the internet. So, I think it's a pretty normalized idea that, like, the internet is hateful. And that's just something you just kind of accept and move on with. People don't really think about why. Why is the internet so hateful? Why are people so desperate to behave in ways that I don't even think they would in real life just to be the most horrific they can be? Like, literally, a guy has cancer. And I mean, even if we're obviously in this case, it's not as bleak, but even in the case of, say, Total Biscuit, there were people who would engage in this type of rhetoric, you know, the trolling, right? Because I guarantee the vast majority of the people that are claiming Boogie is faking his cancer, if they were really pinned down on it, they'd claim they were trolling. Because that's always the go-to, right? Like, oh, it's just trolling. It's internet trolling. It's just trolling, guys. It's just trolling, right? Obviously, this is not a good excuse. I think most people in my community can agree it's just trolling as justification for bad behavior is not a very good justification. You know, like if some Nazis out there saying, I think the Jews have gone too far. We gotta do something about it. Like you guys would not accept the response, oh, I was just trolling, you know? And you shouldn't. You really shouldn't. With that said, Boogie continued with a few more tweets, and I want to continue them before I get to my thesis. Hey man, to make it very clear, make fun of cancer all you want. It's super fucked up, and dark humor helps us deal with fucked up things, but we're not going to pretend I'm faking it. That shit won't stand. I wrote about this in my book, and maybe I'll post it as a YouTube video one day, but she worked hospice center as a... Okay, I think this is unrelated. Oh, yeah. His mom worked in hospice, and he hates cancer. I blocked like 200 accounts today on Twitter. All of them have a few things in common. They are down the QAnon rabbit hole. They pick on other YouTubers like DSP and Wings. They are notorious assholes. Nothing of value is lost. Yeah, so as you can see, like Boogie's definitely had to go on a bit of a blocking spree on Twitter, which is understandable. I think blocking for your own mental health is completely valid. There was this time, like in 2016, when the whole like, oh, you blocked someone on Twitter. Oh my God, you marketplace of ideas. You've lost the argument because you blocked him on Twitter. Like, that was like a big thing. People don't really do that anymore. It's kind of accepted. Yeah, people are being an asshole. Block them on Twitter. Don't engage. Who cares? That's what you're supposed to do. However, I really want to talk about the nature of hate on the internet, why people behave this way, specifically why it's okay perceptually, because I have not seen like an outspoken, statement by really a lot of big public figures that maybe are in the community of people that would be pushing this kind of shit, denouncing it, right? Not on the same level as you'd see it for, say, another figure. One who's maybe more liked on the internet. So, it's time to bring it around to cancel culture. That's right. Boogie is a victim of cancel culture. Those that have canceled him would never admit that they've canceled him or that they're part of cancel culture because they tend to be very right-wing, but that's what they've done. They've engaged in cancel culture. And because of that, Boogie has basically been labeled by the internet as bad person. And it's funny because nothing that Boogie has done has really been that bad from what I can tell. And I followed the guy about as close as you can follow another figure online without it being obsessive since like 2009. You know, he's been around a hot minute. Like, I don't feel like he's done much bad overall. And I'll look in spaces that he's appeared in. He's appeared on the PKA podcast a few times. I almost want to do a whole segment about how the PKA podcast accidentally fostered a community that hates them, like how the hosts of PKA accidentally created a community of haters, like just through their lack of moderation of their community. I wanted to make a video about that for a while now, but PKA, he's appeared on that podcast a few times, and when you look at any comment section where he talks about anything, it's just the most vile insults and attacks you can imagine, right? And I guess that's to be expected because that's the broader behavior of a lot of the internet, and the PKA kind of has a more hyper toxic community compared to the rest of the internet even. But it's interesting how once you've been designated a canceled individual, you know, even in the broader part of the internet, nothing bad is off limits, right? Like, the lowest of low blows, the lowest of low attacks are completely on the table. And the thing that's so funny to me is that one of the biggest things used to cancel Boogie was a clip where he was referring to his haters as being bad people. And now his haters are, like, celebrating and or accusing him of faking his cancer and being outright objectively bad people. And yet that clip of him calling his haters bad people went viral and ended up getting him a lot of shit. I just think it's funny how, like, in the long run, he ended up being vindicated, and yet the thing that he did that he's been vindicated for is used as justification for the behavior that is vindicating his take. It's all cyclical, right? This is not uncommon. There are a lot of people on the internet who've been designated, you're bad. Everything bad that happens to you is justified, and yeah, you fuck you, right? Nobody can do it. Like, nothing's off limits. And it's just funny to me that at the end of the day, the worst things that Boogie has done is A, be a public figure that's overweight, and B, be a public figure that's overweight and left-wing. Listen, being overweight alone isn't enough to get you a shit on the internet. Obviously, like the quartering, for example, he's fine. But being overweight and openly left-leaning online, that will absolutely... You fall into a stereotype at that point that makes you, I guess, not a person anymore in the eyes of a lot of people online, and instead some sort of archetypical stereotype that, you know, doesn't have a soul or feelings, and you don't need to feel any remorse or empathy towards. And the final part of this really is empathy, right? Empathy is a rare commodity online. It really, really is. And I think a large part of that is the average age of internet users. Internet users tend to skew pretty young. And if any of you watching me right now have recently been in high school or are in high school, how many of you can relate to the lack of empathy in people like that age? A lot of young people just principally do not believe that being good for goodness's sake is worth doing. Being a good person and doing things for the sake of making other people happy does not compute for them, which is a large part of why edgy humor, of which, you know, cruelty is essentially the drive, the fuel for it, tends to be popular among very young people. And outside of that, people who wish they were still young. Like, the kinds of people online right now that are saying Boogie is faking his cancer, I guarantee are the types of people that wish we were back in the Leafy is here age of YouTube. And they missed that age, and they can't let go of the 2016 YouTube era, and they're like, oh, things were so much better back in the Leafy era. Oh man, I missed that era. That was so good. Like, back when, like, every bit of content and all humor was based around abject cruelty and lack of empathy for others. I think that's basically the remnants of that tendency still marring the internet that's causing a lot of this. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about and why I wanted to talk about this and why this social analysis is important? The left seems very unwilling to accept that a lot of young people, even though young people tend to skew progressive, young people also tend to skew edgy as fuck. And a lot of what they conceive as being edgy humor is a lack of empathy and care for others. And cruelty made humorous, right? Like, there's a difference between dark humor and, like, here's a video of a child. I'm pulling from a direct example from my edgelord phase when I would hang out in edgelord Discord communities. There was a video that I saw once that was just a child, just a child falling onto a train track and getting run over. I'm guessing like Africa somewhere, like, is the best I could pull from like the environment and everything. Like, that is the type of humor that 15, 16, 17-year-olds share around and say, look at this, look, gore, look disgusting. Like, they'll, like, just the most, like, horrific shit is all that they can glean humor from. And it's always, like, the suffering of others, right? Many of you guys in chat are weirding right now and like, Monka-essing, but if any of you have ever been exposed to, like, the average, like, when I was in high school, the average Discord server ran and operated by people my age back then, and I'm sure it's not gone away now. That was the type of shit you would see. Unless it was a definitively left-wing Discord, that's the kind of shit you see. Anyway, I think it all kind of rolls back to the same basic concepts of a lot of people on the internet are young, lacking in empathy. They haven't developed it yet, and those that are older tend to be emotionally stunted man-children who really, really miss the days of when the haha funniest content online was just bullying. Like, remember when, like, the most popular content on YouTube would be, like, Leafy bullying a kid with autism? He ended up getting shit for that down the road, and it led to his downfall, but there was a time when, like, Leafy is here singling out neurodivergent people on the internet and just bullying them was the peak of internet commentary content. And that is what these same people fucking wish for. Oh, they miss it so much. Back when just bullying autistic kids on the internet was content you could monetize and make a living off of. Oh, they miss it so much. They you have no idea. Their heart yearns for it. Anyway, I think that's the type of mindset and the type of person that's pushing this type of hate. And I feel like the fact that the hate has been so strongly directed towards Boogie in this case, someone who, and I'm going to be real, maybe there's plenty of reasons to criticize Boogie, but there are so many people so much worse and so much more famous, influential, wealthy, and larger than him that get literally no hate, like no criticism. And yet this guy gets almost nothing but criticism. When I hear Boogie mentioned, it's to hate on Boogie, almost always. Outside of communities that are talking about him in a positive way almost exclusively. Like, it really does feel as though there's a massive double standard for this guy. Just a fucking huge one. And, you know, it's just something I've noticed, and that's where I think it comes from. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like, subscribe, ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so you get a note, so you know YouTube tells you when I go live or upload a new video. You can also support me by following my social medias, all linked down below in the description on pretty much every platform I stream or upload on. And of course, finally, if you want to support me financially, you got the money for it, and you don't need it for anything else, you can consider supporting me financially through my website, xanderhall.com/live, or perhaps even supporting me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, StreamElements, or Patreon. But as always, regardless of how you support me, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.